my name is Nadeem and I'm going to talk about photography, how to become a budding photographer. Basically, first thing you need to do is obviously invest in equipment, and you need to think what kind of camera you want. There's three types of cameras you can get: point and shoot, bridged camera, or a DSLR. And once you decide, point and shoot is basically just you get a normal camera, fixed lens, you start taking pictures straight out of the box. Bridged is between like a point and shoot and a DSLR, it's a gap. It's a gap filler with extra features on there, which, if you're a bit advanced, you can have extra features. But if you're not, stick to a point and shoot. And then what you need to do then is invest in a nice, decent tripod, because you don't want a shaky picture, you don't want a blurred picture. And once you get that set going, then you need to go out, venture out, and start taking pictures of anything, what you like, your hobbies, at work, wherever, and then start experimenting with compositions. People say, sometimes they don't find a decent picture. The thing is, like, one area is boring, but I'll say a house, wherever you live, you can find something decent there in your garden. There might be a wild flower, all those things, and you think, hang on, that flower looks good. I could take a picture of that and make a poster size, and hang it on a wall. Or what you need to do is just venture out in the countryside and always take a camera with you if you can, because you never know of situations where you might see a decent composition, a shot. Yeah. When you start doing photography, you got to think like a photographer. You got to use your photography eyes. You can't, some people just oversee things, but photographers normally, when I'm driving around, I see a tree or something standing in the tree, you think, hang on, that I could take a picture of, and it look nice at all the surroundings. You pinpoint something that is interesting, and when you show it to somebody, you think, wow, I would have never ever thought of taking a picture of a leaf, with a drop, raindrop falling off it, or a cow standing underneath a tree or something in a shade. But those are the things that you need to think of. If you haven't got a camera and you're driving around, with your friends, always have a pen and a notebook with you, because you could take time, where towards the actual subject, and basically, if it was in the rain, sun, night time, because you might have seen it at night time, thinking, wow, there's lights reflecting off that building. I could take a picture of that. It looked nice, like a church or something. When there's lights hitting the church, and you think, hang on, that looks nice in a village surrounding, and you take a picture, and you can have a portfolio. Later on, you can take into your hobby into professional work. But to do that, you need to work at it, taking decent pictures and playing with the light. Because at the end of the day, most photography is always playing with the light, because you might see a door open with a natural sun ray light coming in and bouncing off a table or something. But if you take a picture of that door with the light coming in, with the dark side and the light side, it kind of it brings it into contrast, and you think, well, because it's all about playing with the light. The photography is. Obviously you can take a picture of a subject as a human or somebody sitting there, but even then, you can take a picture where the sunlight is hitting one side of the face, and one side of the face is dark. So it becomes, it brings the image out, out of perspective. You think, well, you need to give something to your viewer, something to look at and admire, to talk about, as opposed to taking a picture of a door with nothing, or a cat. But you can take a picture of a cat actually playing with a cotton ball or something, or doing something. If you've got a dog, always keep a camera handy. He might do something silly, and if you can capture that, it'll be pretty decent. That comes down to composition and stuff, getting the picture right. And if you don't know what decent pictures look like, you can go on websites like websites like Flickr, or other websites where digital photography courses. They have courses, but they also have samples of pictures from amateurs to professionals, right? And they tell you how they got that picture with what kind of camera, what kind of settings, because you need to play with settings. But when you're starting off, you shouldn't be thinking about settings. You should be just taking pictures. But that comes with time, taking decent pictures. And it's all about taking loads of pictures, not just 10 pictures. If you could take 100, 200, fine. Out of those 200, you can bring it down to 10, 5, 1. The $1 million shot. It's all about that $1 million shot. If you can get that, that's brilliant. And you need to learn about the basic rules. If you never learn about photography, the rule of thirds. Never take a picture of a person head on. If I was taking a picture of a person, I wouldn't take it head on. Try to put him on the left side or the right side of the actual frame, so it kind of brings out the image even more, rather than just head on, taking a picture. It looks like a boring shot, you put no backbone into it. And basically, the rule of thirds is if you put a grid, you can get in cameras, you can get a grid of 9 squares, and you choose 3 squares, 1, 2, 3, or whatever direction, and try to frame that person or subject into that rule of thirds, and you'll get a really nice picture, And the other thing is, don't be afraid of experimenting. Just try out different techniques, portrait, landscape, diagonal, all kinds of shots. If you have to lie down to get a ladybird, lie down, get a ladybird with macro lens or macro settings, where the actual ladybird looks at the joint. When you actually, take a picture, print it, but it looks like life size. But that comes with knowledge as well, because you can't do it with some point and shoot, but you can do it with bridge or DSLRs, where you need to get a decent macro lens, where it takes a small object and magnifies it. A lot of people use that. If you like your macro photography, a lot of people take pictures of insects and stuff. It's whatever your hobby is, right? And then the other thing that you need to think about is frames per second. If you like your sports photography, you don't want a slow camera where you miss a shot, the car goes past, and you got an empty frame, and where's the car gone? Right? You need to be thinking what kind of camera you want. This is where you might need to invest in a decent camera. More money is involved in. But then any sports photography or wildlife photography, you need a decent camera where if a bird is flying across, you need to take it at a burst rate where you get it in the position that you want it. Because sometimes if you see a picture of an eagle, it's really fluttering, looks really good, but that photographer might have took about 10 other pictures of that same eagle, but it wasn't the composition that you wanted, that you could sell or you could put in a magazine. So it's about, patience, because you might be there a whole day, taking a picture of one subject, because if you work for a magazine and they want that ideal picture, the boss wants that ideal picture, you can't just do 1 hour and that's it. Or in winter, sometimes it might be a winter scene, you have to wrap up one thing and stay there for 8 to 10 hours to get that picture that you want of a polar bear or a bear or a bird. You need to invest in time as well. And when you get it, great, then you need to invest in decent memory cards as well. If you're into that kind of high-tech photography, you need cards that can take heat dissipation, because you can get normal, and if you do delete a picture or the heat kind of morphs the actual, the stuff inside, it corrupts it, you need a decent card where you can recover from. You can get cards where if you delete it by mistake, or if you go to a hot country and the actual heat does kind of play a factor in kind of deleting or corrupting your pictures, there is a way of getting some images back, or all, but you need to invest in really good memory cards, extreme memory cards, and you can get them. But if you're using general, then you don't need to invest. You can get £5–10, but they get up to £300, depending on what size and what capabilities they've got. And then basically that's about it, and you just keep taking pictures until you become a professional. Take it ahead.
Thank you.